I shall endeavor to serve you with loyalty, respect, and love.
King Charles III delivers his first address.
We have extensive coverage of Queen Elizabeth's passing. We first start with Isabel Rosales, who's live in London.
This is such a surreal moment for so many Britons. Tomorrow at St. James's Palace, the Queen's death will be formally announced and the new sovereign will be proclaimed. Today, we heard from the new king for the first time. A country in mourning, ushering in a new era as a new British monarch takes the throne.
He will abide by the Constitution in a very faithful way. He'll follow in the Queen's footsteps.
On Friday, in his first address as head of state, King Charles III bidding farewell to his mother and honoring her historic legacy, saying, quote, Queen Elizabeth was a life well lived, a promise with destiny kept, and she is mourned most deeply in her passing. That promise of lifelong service I renew to you all today. It comes on the same day King Charles meets with the newly appointed Prime Minister, Liz Truss. And as mourners around the world pay their respects to the longest-serving monarch in history, who died Thursday at age 96. Large crowds gathered outside St. Paul's Cathedral, where family members, lawmakers, and diplomats gathered to pay tribute.
I can't explain to you how I feel. I feel as though someone close in my family has passed.
Quite emotional, and I think it's going to be very different without her.
As the country and the British Commonwealth adjust to a new reality, some have mixed feelings.
I'm not like the biggest fan of the Queen or just like the monarchy in general, mainly to do with like British like colonial history.
While others look forward to having a king on the British throne for the first time in more than 70 years.
I think he's probably more ready for it in the last 15 years than he probably was in his younger years.
And the Queen's funeral has been meticulously looked over, the details looked over with the finest tooth comb for 70 years now since her coronation. Many of the details signed off by the Queen herself. She knew what would happen as she was alive. But a hiccup here is that they did not anticipate that she would actually pass in Scotland. So arrangements are now being made to transfer her body back to England. Live in London, I'm Isabel Rosales.
And now we continue our coverage by bringing in our Billy V into the H&N Digital Center with more on the ties the Queen has to the Aloha State. Billy, what have you been learning?
Thank you very much, Jonathan. Yeah, Hawaii has some interesting ties to British royalty. Let's show you a picture right now. This image is from 1970. This comes to us from the Kamehameha schools. Kamehameha's concert glee girls performed for Queen Elizabeth II, Prince Philip, and their daughter, Princess Anne. She made a stop in Hawaii when her plane refueled. They also sang Aloha Oi as the Queen boarded her plane. You might have wondered why the Hawaii state flag features the British flag's design. King Kamehameha was given the Union Jack by Captain George Vancouver. Kamehameha was not only friends with him, but also adopted a design very similar to the British East India Company design with the Union Jack in the canton. That's in the upper left-hand corner. Alexander Adams documented this in his journals around 1817. This is a drawing he made of the ship called Ka'ahumanu. You can see the Hawaii flag at the back of the ship. In February 1843, the islands would suddenly fly under the Union Jack as Lord George Paulet seized and occupied the Kingdom of Hawaii. At the behest of Her Royal Majesty, Queen Victoria, Admiral Richard Darton Thomas would sail into Honolulu Harbor and on July 26, 1843, end the occupation and officially transfer the islands back to King Kamehameha III. Thus, you have Thomas Square in Honolulu. And by the way, it's the same place that the King Kamehameha III statue is located and where the celebrations of La Ho'iho'i'ea, or Restoration Day holiday on Oahu, are usually centered annually on July 26.
Yeah,
Jonathan?
Also at Thomas Square, if you ever saw an above angle, the sidewalk and the positions of the sidewalk actually form the Union Jack.
Yes.
Yeah. So, Billy, I just wanted to ask you, do you have any memories of the Queen looking back?
I do not personally, but I know that since I handled the entertainment side of things, Jake Shimabukuro played for the Queen, and he gives a fond memory of standing. He was told that the Queen would come backstage, and he would stand in between Lady Gaga and Bette Midler, who he was accompanying. And so Jake played a Beatles song in my life for that. And so when the Queen, just before the Queen came in, and says, okay, don't reach for her hand unless she reaches. Don't speak first to her. Let her speak to you first. And since we're not in the castle, you don't need to bow or curtsy. Jake says that, well, maybe it's his Japanese, Japanese in him, but he says as soon as she came in, he's just started bowing.
Yeah, and I heard some other entertainers from Hawaii also met with the Queen. I was listening to NPR yesterday, also listening to all the commentary from those royal watchers and enthusiasts. One of the memories that really stuck out to me in those reflections yesterday was her humor. I think when you look back at the London Olympics, when she was with Daniel Craig.
That was amazing.
Yeah.
That was my favorite moment, just watching her jump out of that helicopter and hearing the James Bond music, you know.
It's class, and it shows that she's a real person, right?
Yes.
So people can remember her for that, as well as just being Britain's longest-serving monarch. But for now, let's toss things back over to Ashley with more news.
Parts of the Asia Pacific are paying tribute to Queen Elizabeth. Hong Kong residents could be seen leaving messages of condolences and floral tributes outside the British Consulate General building, while the Union Jack could be seen flying at half-mast. Queen Elizabeth was affectionately nicknamed Boss Lady among older residents in Hong Kong, the city that was one of Britain's last colonies. During her reign, the Queen visited Hong Kong twice, while her son, now King Charles III, was present for the handover to China in 1997. Amid the outpouring of grief on social media and in news coverage, her passing inevitably renewed questions about the monarchy's role, including in Commonwealth countries like Australia, where she was the head of state. Australians have responded to the news in a variety of ways.
I'm actually really in shock, and I'm probably going to walk away and cry. I'm going to cry. I know that's crazy, but she's just been, there my whole life. She's been the Queen. She's on our money. I'm going to London in October and, wanted to visit Buckingham Palace, and I'm just seeing the flags are half-mast. So, yes, I'm going to cry. I'm sorry. It's just really shocking.
The new person has to earn respect, and we've yet to find that.
We have much more on the Queen's passing on our HNN digital platforms, and we'll have even more coverage a bit later on This Is Now. Now to today's talker story, a plan to allow homeless people to sleep in their cars in a Maui County parking lot. It's a one-year test to see if they can prevent it from turning into an encampment. Ben Gutierrez has the story.
Maui Mayor Mike Victorino signed the bill for the county to allow the overnight stays, but it's going to start with just one parking lot in Wailuku.
Now it's official.
Starting as soon as next month, people will be allowed to sleep in their vehicles in the parking lot of the Cameron Center in Wailuku. The county even plans to set up porta potties.
This site is located centrally and close to social service providers that can help those people who welcome their assistance.
It's not meant to be something where people are going to be cooking or, doing partying or, having major gatherings. It's basically to sleep.
Kelly King introduced the bill giving the county leeway for the project, well aware that state law prohibits overnight sleeping in vehicles on public property.
If you're unsheltered and living in your car, you get constantly, the flashlight in your window and move on down the road. And so it's really hard to get a good night's sleep.
King says the pilot program is meant to help working people who simply can't afford housing. Maui's homeless count has actually declined slightly since 2020, but it's still topping 700. Some worry that allowing overnight stays in county lots will lead to encampments.
We've got to make sure that people come and leave in designated times, right? Because there are situations that they did this in other counties, and the homeless did not want to leave.
The county is still working on its protocols, but says guests will have to register. The head of Oahu's largest homeless services provider says it's a good idea.
If it's a triage point, and people register and we can, get help for the person, it could be a quicker way to help people. I thought about it when we first started work in Waikiki, that there were quite a few people, and I think that are working in Waikiki, but they don't have a place to live. And so we would see some people who were living in their cars.
The mayor's office says details are still being worked out. The pilot program could get up to $200,000 for such things as portable restrooms and security. Ben Gutierrez, Hawaii News Now.
New today, Hawaii Proud Boys founder Nick Oakes has pleaded guilty on a felony charge of obstruction of an official proceeding. This stems from his participation in the January 6th Capitol attack. Prosecutors say Oakes and his co-defendant Nicholas DeCarlo threw smoke bombs at police, illegally entered the Capitol, and defaced property within. Federal guidelines in the agreement dictate a prison sentence of 41 to 51 months and a fine of up to $150,000. Oakes will be sentenced in December.
For more than 2 decades, tens of thousands of first responders are dealing with chronic health issues following exposure to toxic dust and debris after the September 11th terror attacks. Now, new research is looking at long-term issues like COVID. Dan Lieberman has more.
Michael Gullub spent 11 months at Ground Zero, first as a volunteer with his fire department. Later, the company he worked for was contracted by the city.
I was responsible for the medical care for everybody that was on the site.
Within a week or so, he couldn't stop coughing.
I had that for years until I started coming here and getting the proper medication.
Here is the Stony Brook World Trade Center Wellness Program. Thousands of responders are seen with conditions such as obstructive airway disease, asthma, cancer, PTSD, and depression.
This gives rise to a variety of susceptibility and vulnerability to being able to deal with other diseases or infections.
Program Director Dr. Benjamin Luff's latest research looks at nearly 1,300 responders who had COVID-19. Data shows patients with 9/11 related chronic conditions are more likely to have more severe infection and suffer with long COVID symptoms such as shortness of breath and brain fog.
Now that we've been able to follow these patients for as long as a year, we find about 15% of our patients continue to have problems with long COVID.
Another recent study suggests responders with PTSD could be affected by a specific form of dementia. Michael encourages responders to be monitored and get treatment.
The first few years before the program, I used to tell people when I die, put 9/11. I don't think that anymore.
And he's grateful he's still here with his family. Dan Lieberman, CBS News.
Wanted to let you know there will be a 9/11 tribute happening downtown here in just a short bit, and we will bring you a live stream of that coming up on your H&N digital platforms, specifically Facebook, here in about 15 minutes. Let's get a check of your weather. Here's Guy Hoggy.
We'll be seeing showers from time to time through the day, mainly for those windward and Mauka areas, but even leeward sides will pick up something, and that's a very good thing considering the drought conditions across the state. Tomorrow morning, still pretty wet. And then by the middle of the morning, looks like things are going to start to dry up into the afternoon, although there's a chance for some spotty afternoon showers. Now, the next chance for more significant rain is coming up from the south, mainly for the Big Island on Tuesday. Other than that, most of the rainfall coming in will be light to moderate at best, even though we had a few downpours this morning. We'll take whatever we can get at this point, right? Because of the dry conditions. So again, scattered showers today favoring windward areas. Fewer showers tomorrow with pop-up showers, high humidity levels from Saturday all the way into the middle of next week. Still a nice run of weather for the weekend.
Continuing our coverage now on the passing of Queen Elizabeth. Well, her love story with Prince Philip lasted 7 decades. Kelly Kobiea joins us from London now with more on their real-life fairy tale.
A romance that aged like fine wine. Side by side, the Queen and her prince went through a lifetime of celebrations and tribulations for more than 7 decades.
Quite simply, been my strength and stay all these years.
It was love at first sight. The Queen, only a princess in 1939, spotted the dapper and towering 18-year-old Philip while on vacation and immediately became enraptured.
And she fell desperately head over heels in love with him.
Like any great romance, their bond was put to the test when Philip joined the Royal Navy during World War II. But their courtship continued long distance.
It was a correspondence love affair, really. They wrote letters to one another.
And with each letter, their feelings flourished until Philip returned from war and asked the future queen's hand in marriage. It was the wedding of the century, broadcast around the world in 1947.
Londoners slept in the streets to see their future queen and her husband.
But their quiet home life in Malta didn't last long. In 1952, the sudden passing of King George VI would thrust the princess into the spotlight. At 25 years old, she became a queen, from princess to monarch, and from wife to matriarch. At the coronation, Prince Philip bent the knee to swear his allegiance to her.
He was always quite the alpha male, so having to take a step back and follow his wife as she became head of state was a big adjustment for him.
He gave up his work and stood by her side, making a life together sprinkled with humor.
Tolerance is the one essential ingredient of any happy marriage. It may not be quite so important when things are going well, but it is absolutely vital when things get difficult. And you can take it from me that the Queen has the quality of tolerance and abundance.
They were married for 73 years until Philip's death in April of 2021 during the height of the COVID pandemic, the Queen having to mourn alone in the church as she said farewell to her life partner, leaving a handwritten note on his casket.
But for me, in the months since the death of my beloved Philip, I have drawn great comfort from the warmth and affection of the many tributes to his life and work. That mischievous, inquiring twinkle was as bright at the end as when I first set eyes on him.
And that was Kelly Kobiea reporting there. Now, the Queen's former personal chef, who traveled with her and her family for more than a decade, recalled fond memories and her favorite meals today on CNN.
You know, it's an incredibly sad day. You know, I'm feeling those sort of pains in my stomach as if I'd lost a loved one. And I think the whole nation feels the same, and everyone around the world. You know, I got to see the Queen for all those years in pomp and pageantry, but also behind the scenes too, their happy, smiley faces. And I'm just thinking back today to, you know, when I first met her, walking the corgis along the river at Balmoral Castle, and the corgis chasing me running away, the Queen just laughing out loud. You know, seeing her, dancing with her at Balmoral, and just seeing the happy times. You know, those years where I cooked breakfast, lunch, afternoon tea, and dinner for the most amazing lady.
You call her the most amazing lady, and you talk about her humor. It has been, you know, amidst the sadness and the seriousness of today, some of the stories of her humor have truly, you know, would make anyone laugh. I mean, what wonderful sense of humor she had. You know, she had access to anything she wanted, right? Anything she wanted. You saw that, of course, with food. You're cooking breakfast, lunch, tea, dinner, anything. And but you say she wasn't a foodie. What was it like to work for her, to cook for her?
Yeah, when I first started working at the palace, I thought, this is it. We're going to be having champagne and caviar and foie gras every night. But that wasn't the case. You know, the Queen is very humble, and she is quite happy just doing a state banquet where we have to have all those rich foods on the menu when she's entertaining kings, queens, presidents from around the world. I cooked for 5 different presidents, Reagan, Clinton, Ford, both presidents, Bush, while I was there. But when she was on her own, just some grilled fish, grilled chicken, and she was never happier than when she was actually eating something from her own garden, some vegetables, some that her and Princess Margaret had picked from the cages at Balmoral Castle. That's when she was happy.
And you were also Princess Diana's former personal chef for several years until her tragic death. I know you had many moments with her. You know, you held infant Prince Harry while Diana ate cereal in the kitchen. What was that like? How was working for her? And I know, of course, it would have been quite different from working with the Queen.
Yeah, it did cross my mind today, you know, when I'm seeing all of these photographs of the flowers building up outside Windsor Castle, Buckingham Palace. You know, I was the princess right up until the day of the car accident. I had food with me, waiting for her to return the next day, and seeing outside the front of Kensington Palace 25 years ago, those flowers building up and the people out there all through the night. This is just memories of two people that, you know, created a difference in the world and touched so many people.
All right, the internet is certainly still talking about this story, and that's what we're going to keep focusing on our From the Feed segment as we take a live look outside at London. They're at Buckingham Palace. You know, King Charles III, it's hard to even call him that. I keep wanting to say Prince, took some time today, as we mentioned earlier, to greet well-wishers outside the palace. One woman asked him for a kiss. That's her right there. A reporter got a chance to talk to her today, and here's what she said right here.
I've seen in the front of me, I couldn't believe it. And I said to him, may I kiss you? He said, well, yes. So I grabbed him, and I'm very happy. Very, very much. Thank you, God, to let me see him and kiss him. He looked sad. I say, sorry, what you lost. He say, yeah. And I say, may I kiss you? Well, yeah.
Yeah, still taking the time to greet with his royal watchers and onlookers there today. And you found some more entertainment news involving the Crown.
That's right. The screenwriter of the Netflix series The Crown has announced that filming will be suspended following the death of Her Majesty. The drama, a fictional retelling of the royal family's history, starting from the death of the late Queen's father, has won multiple awards across its 4 seasons. It's also become one of Netflix's most streamed shows, although The Crown has also been criticized for some historical inaccuracies. Now, a spokesperson for Netflix later confirmed that production of Series 6 has been suspended, and it's not clear if plans to release Season 5, scheduled for November, will also be delayed.
And that's going to be the controversial one for sure, because we're to the point of the ones that have been released to right before the passing of Princess Diana. So you can only imagine the conflict and controversy that will come with that release.
Right.
All right, we got some more entertainment news to get to, and some good entertainment news to get to. The 74th Annual Emmy Awards are right around the corner. We got our good friend Nichelle Turner with Entertainment Tonight, with more on that.
Aloha, Jonathan. I want to zero in on one of the show's biggest prizes, Outstanding Drama Series, starting with this year's most nominated show. With 25 noms, Succession is poised for a big Emmy night and could get their 2nd win for Outstanding Drama Series, but they'll have to go through another HBO hit. Euphoria is the Emmy's 2nd most nominated drama with 16, and Zendaya could make history if she repeats her win for Outstanding Lead Actress in a Drama Series.
It's obviously a very emotional moment, and I still can't believe it myself, so it's pretty crazy.
Bob Odenkirk suffered a heart attack while filming the final season of Better Call Saul. So far, the show's been 0 for 39.
Are you out of your minds?
Netflix has 3 shows competing in the category: Stranger Things, the surprise international hit Squid Game, and the final season of Ozark. Laura Linney is still processing their goodbye.
It's been a wonderful run. We're very, very grateful. We've loved it.
What's happening?
Rounding out the category are a couple of newcomers, Apple TV Plus's Severance and Showtime's Yellow Jackets. Melanie Linsky and Tawny Cypress told us how they felt about their noms.
You say that awards don't mean anything, but you know, it's I've the record that.
And tune into ET Tonight because we're with Taylor Swift for her Toronto Film Festival debut. For Entertainment Tonight, I'm Nichelle Turner.
Yeah, Entertainment Tonight airs on KGMB right after our 6 p.m. newscast, and that just shows me that I have a lot of TV viewing to catch up on before the award show.
I just binge Succession, and it's amazing.
I've said this before, I cannot get through the middle of Ozark. It just loses me.
Yeah.
All right, guys, that's going to do it for This Is Now. Don't forget that live stream of that 9/11 Remembrance Ceremony about to take place on our Facebook page. Stay tuned for that.